This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
And I'm Heather Branch here with John, asking for his ideas on what you want to be working on now as you work towards the goals that you have for your retirement years. It's hopefully going to be decades of a good time. Let's be honest about what we all want for our retirement.
That is the greatest moniker I've heard in a long time for retirement.
Decades of a good time.
Decades of a good time. It's one that you never want to end.
That's right. Goals. Am I wrong?
But it's true, though, right?
I
mean, who wants to sign up for decades of misery?
Decades of a bad time. Not
that
what we're
sounds
here
hard.
for.
No, that sounds terrible. That sounds like one of Dante's different circles of the Inferno. Yeah, it's
decades
not,
of a good time.
That
Sounds like a door I want to choose.
Darn straight. It also sounds like a modern version of a Motley Crue album being released. Decades of decadence.
Their best hits. Decades of a good time. I think we're onto something, John. Somebody passes along. We figured out their bio title. So thinking about, obviously, everything that we need to get in order for that phase of life, there's a lot to manage and pull together in a plan, which, of course, we don't have to do by ourselves. You and your team, J. Hagan Capital, here to help us pull all those things together. So get started on that conversation, retirementsolutionradio.com. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there. Or again, find us, retirementsolutionradio.com. Let's talk about decades of a good time, because when you think about some of the biggest names in Hollywood, there are, especially when you come to think about listen, as a lady who does enjoy a good swoon every now and then, there are just some people, when the names get said, you're just like, oh, and that Tom Selleck, every time, oh, I didn't know he's 79 years old and he's still
I was going to say Selleck, because I was amazed. Like recently, I played golf with Bill Murray. Bill Murray is 73.
Yeah.
And then Harrison Ford is 79. So basically, Tom Selleck is the same age of Harrison Ford. 70. He looks great, real good for 79. 79.
He's been drinking his milk. I'm telling you,
man. The mustache helps. I remember when he shaved that for that period of time.
Everybody was confused. How dare you?
Yeah,
you put that right back, sir.
Yeah, he should never shave that off ever again.
So here's the whole thing, and you and I were talking about this before we came on the air, the idea about Tom Selleck, because, and we talked about this before, how he infamously passed up the role of Indiana Jones.
So supposedly Spielberg originally wanted Tom Selleck for whatever reason, and I think it came down to, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, so we need to do a fact check on this after the case, but he turned it down because Spielberg wanted him to shave the mustache. Wanted him to shave the mustache because he just felt like the character, it just wasn't really proper design. And Selleck liked the script, wasn't sold on it, but he just really didn't want to shave the mustache. And of course, I don't know if he was the second or the third one to be called, but Harrison Ford took that and then became,
here we are.
I don't know, for everything that Disney owns, my guess is the Indiana Jones series, the franchise, is probably the third most successful behind Star Wars, and
also
I'm sure there's something
Ford.
else in there. Yeah, Harrison Ford.
He made some good
you
decisions.
look at that kind of stuff. I mean, that's just kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I always think back, what would it have been like if Indiana Jones had also been Magnum P.I.?
Well,
I mean, because like Remington Steele became James Bond, right, with Pierce Brosnan. So that would have been interesting. But he didn't take that.
Perhaps it would have been.
He did 3 Men and a Baby.
He did 3 Men and a Baby. But this is what we were talking about before we came on the idea of, if you think about Tom Selleck, I mean, really, it's his TV career that we know him for.
Absolutely,
He did 3 Men and a Baby, but as far as movies for Tom Selleck go, you think Magnum P.I.
I don't think they were huge.
Friends,
Yeah, he was on Friends for a good period of time. I guess the most recent one,
Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods. I've really never seen a lot of it. Whenever it comes on, I kind of keep it on for a few minutes.
But it has been a super successful series. 14 years he's been acting on it.
It's been on that long? Oh my gosh.
It's now coming to an end. And apparently there may be some talk about CBS having a change of heart and continue on with the show, which here's where the conversation gets a little weird, in my opinion. Apparently he's hoping that it does, because he was telling CBS Sunday Mornings, Tracy Smith, that if it does not continue on, he might have to give up his big California ranch. So here's what he said. Take a listen.
Hopefully I keep working enough to hold on to the place.
Seriously, that's an issue? If you stopped working?
It's always an issue. If I stop working, yeah. Am I set for life? Yeah, but maybe not on a 63-acre ranch.
Tom Selleck
is talking
about...
It's like a real-life Yellowstone, right? Where if so if you've ever watched Yellowstone with here another aging but fabulous actor with Kevin Costner, the whole idea was, he had this land, but he wasn't a super rich man, right? And in order to keep that ranch, he had to do everything in his power, including including in Yellowstone, even becoming governor, just to try to stop people from whatever. And it's interesting because, of course, California has some of the highest taxes on the planet. And on top of that, their property taxes are crazy too, and all that stuff behind it. So when you think about that, Tom Selleck, that we've known, I think he's worth, I think we looked this up, $40 to $50 million. $45 million. The guy's worth $45 million, and he may not be able to keep his ranch if he doesn't have a working income. Man, think about that for a minute. And of course, I love the fact he said, hey, am I probably set for life?
Right.
I mean, yeah. But I can't do one of the things that he's obviously letting us know. It's his passion, right? So what kind of a passion project do you want in retirement, where you can't afford to do it? That sounds miserable.
Yep.
But I mean, this is what a lot of us are going to be struggling to deal with, right? So I talk to people all the time. They're like, John, here's a story. We've had a really great income. We've saved a really good amount of money. We had our house here that, of course, the kids have come out of. But it was their, their family house when we grew up. So we kind of want to keep that.
Yep.
We have our lake house down in Nolan or Taylorsville Lake or Dale Hollow. We keep that down there. And then we have a condo, or we're looking at getting a condo in Florida. And we start going through these conversations. And I'm like, this is great. And by the way, frankly, you can't afford to keep all of those things. Now, we can't spend the same way discretionally that we've been spending if we want to maintain all those properties.
Okay.
Or secondarily, we can rent some of those properties. And a lot of folks, they take a lot of pride in not having to rent those properties. They don't someone else banging up their walls, messing up their sinks, all that kind of stuff. I get that. But it's one of those things where I always say when it comes to retirement, and it's not about the word retirement, when we have financial independence, when we're seeking and striving for financial independence, how can we make sure that sustains, right?
Yes.
So you can often do anything you want in retirement, but you can't do everything. And this, in this case, even comes down to Tom Selleck, worth $45 million. At least at this point, is still a working actor on a major network show. He's saying, the income doesn't keep up. I'm going to be able to keep up the ranch. But those are those things that we need to think about, right? Those are those things where I want anyone that has gone it on their own, created their own retirement nest egg up to this point, and you've been working and you're thinking in the next 3 years or 5 years about retirement, you probably have not needed a financial advisor up until now. I'm not even going to lie about that. I say it all the time. Hey, when you're saving money, when you're making money and saving money, you just keep doing that.
Keep doing that.
You max out that 401k, you put your money in Vanguard, you put your money in Fidelity and Schwab, and you just let that sucker roll. Take as much risk as you're comfortable with. Do not take more than you're uncomfortable with.
Right.
But you need to start figuring out how are you going to create those income streams for that one day when you don't want to keep working.
Right.
And of course, in Tom Selleck's case, he's not wanting to retire. They're canceling the show, or they're maybe not going to continue the show.
It's 14 seasons. It's a good long
Bingo.
run. It's just time to be done.
He doesn't even get the choice.
Right.
And so how many of us might that happen to, right?
Right.
So when you're kind of thinking and looking through that, that is when someone may need to talk to a fiduciary-based advisor on one simple thing. How do you put the plan together? How do you take this big old chunk of money and, number one, make sure you protect it from having it be washed out after this next presidential election, after the market recycles, after interest rates don't go up anymore, they start going down, and we're not getting 5% on our money markets and CDs. How do we make sure that even though 5 companies are leading the entire upswing of the S&P 500, what happens when they don't go up as much? Could we maybe fall apart 30 or 40, 50%?
Yeah.
How do we take all that savings and make sure that does not blow us up from being able to retire, right?
Yep.
And often that is the only time that I think that someone should really consider talking to a financial advisor. And it doesn't even mean you hire that bozo. It means that you actually find out a skilled fiduciary advisor, what are they capable of doing? Because if they can help you protect your money, derive an income stream, keep it away from Uncle Sam, show you what happens if something happens to one of if you're a couple, what happens to one of you? Can the other one still sustain? Can they afford to keep up the ranch if you're gone? Right? Does it make sense? Is it financially viable to do that? And how do we cover healthcare expenses without buying some stupid expensive medical insurance that we may never use, right?
Yeah.
Those 5 things, if you put those 5 things together, and that's what we call our 5 pillars of success, if you do all 5 of those, you probably have a great chance of doing the retirement you want. But most of us, we've never done that planning before.
Right.
This is our first retirement, or we're just now thinking about maybe looking for that financial dependence to do what we want to do. We've just been saving the money. And guys, I'll tell you, anyone can open up a 401k account, put money in, and just keep working and never look at it. Anyone can do that. The difference is the skill set it may require, depending on what you want to accomplish, when it's time to turn that big old pile of money into an actual income stream that will last for potentially 30 to 40 years. Think about it. If you're not like Tom Selleck, who's not even retired yet and he's nearly 80, if you want to retire in your mid-60s, you're probably going to last to, at least if you're a couple, one of you is probably going to last to 90-something, probably.
Yeah.
So if you retire at 65, some of them last to 95, it's 30 years. 30 years of you not having an active income, and you still want to do the things you want to do. Thomas Selleck is 80 years old, and he's thinking, hey, if I don't keep this income up, I may not even be able to have the ranch for another couple years.
Again,
see the point?
It's like,
and so everyone says, man, if I was rich, if I'd save $5 million, I'd save $15 million. What if you save $45 million? You're still going to have problems, right?
That's
you
right.
You got to work your way through them.
It's all perspective and
Bingo.
putting it at your level.
That's it. And it requires a plan. So even if you've done it on your own, believe me, most people do not need a financial advisor. I'm going to say it again. Most people do not need a financial advisor in their 40s, 50s, maybe late 50s. But by the time we're getting close to 60 or we're within 3 to 5 years of when we want to retire, that's when we need to turn on that planning spigot. We really need to start getting the plan together. And it doesn't mean you hire anyone, but you probably need to see what you're maybe missing or what you're unsure of. You may know everything about all of the Vanguard funds you own, but you may not know anything about how to derive an income with consistency when interest rates drop and the market collapses 18 to 44%. And it will. It'll probably happen 4 or 5 times over the course of your retired lifetime. So the question is it how do you know it's going to work? And that's why you want someone to run it by, right?
Yeah.
Who maybe this isn't their first retirement. Yeah. Maybe it's their 400th or 1,000th, or in my case, nearly 2,000th retirement.
How long have you been doing retirement planning? I mean, financial planning since you graduated college, but retirement planning.
So retirement planning since 2001. So it was a necessity. People had lost a ton of money after the .com bust, and they had half as much, and we were trying to figure out, man, do you got to go back to work for 10 more years, or can we make this happen? Yeah. At that point, it got real serious real fast because I built my business on the broken backs of investors who did not have a right plan. They had really good investments that were doing really good until
and it all
they didn't.
Unraveled. Yeah. And
even for me, and I went to school for a really long time. I got 3 different master's degrees. The main thing is that no one prepares you for that. But when you cut your teeth in the industry on hundreds of people saying, John, I used to have $1 million. Now I got 480,000. I was going to retire next year, and now I can't. What do I do? That's how we developed our system for making certain that when we're making these decisions, we don't take them lightly. We also don't take it super seriously either. We're not getting overly serious, but we're making certain that, hey, when plan A doesn't go the way we want, plan B, C, D, and E are going to make sure that we're going to be fine. Just to do those things we want, even if we can't keep the ranch in California. Maybe you should find a ranch in Texas.
Well, there's
Heather.
That. Or Kentucky.
Little less expensive when it comes to taxes.
Little less. And the idea of sometimes working on things that are a little less gives you a little more. It's also not lost on me, the idea of kind of where you started to where you are now, that the 5 pillars, the first one you bring up is protection, is working to protect everything you've worked so hard to earn and save. Not just protection, income streams, having a tax plan, having a legacy plan, not necessarily for your kids or grandkids, but for your spouse. Think about the person that you love so much. And of course, that healthcare plan. Does your plan cover all 5 areas? If you've never sat down with anybody to review it, you don't even know the answer to that question. So let's get to work helping you understand what's really going on with your plan. RetirementSolutionRadio.com is where you can go to start the conversation with John and his team. We also have links posted in the show notes, or again, it's RetirementSolutionRadio.com.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with John Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with John and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting RetirementSolutionRadio.com. Be sure to listen to John's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Inc. is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Inc. is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. It does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through J. Hagan Capital. National license number 188279094.